1320 AM Info Radio, your station for news, information, and entertainment. 1320 AM is Info Radio.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington.
My name is Jacob Larson, and this is the Common Sense Show. To be honest, I really don't know exactly what I'm doing here. I have been in the commercial cleaning contracting business for 15 years, and in that time I've cleaned a lot of toilets. And the reality is, during that time I had multiple different employees, multiple different contacts, clients and stuff that I talked to. And I learned a lot of things, met a lot of people, and experienced a lot of stuff. So I ended up writing 2 books. And first book was called Common Sense from a Common Man, One Man's Opinions on Common Conflicts. The other one is called Common Sense from a Common Man, The Common Man's Guide to Creating Money. And the funny thing about that is here, I'm a janitor, okay? Because like I said, you can tell people, well, you're in the commercial cleaning contracting business, and it sounds really, really cool and all that stuff. But the reality is, I was a janitor. That's what I did. And I wrote a book on creating money. And didn't really know how to get the book out there, talk to people about it, stuff like that. So I created a Facebook page and just started talking to people. And it put me in a place where we ended up discussing all sorts of things, politics, religion, social issues, stuff like that. And I've had a lot of people ask me, what is common sense? And, you get the standard, response when you tell people that you've written books on common sense. They say, well, common sense isn't common. And they say, well, people don't practice common sense. And they're right for the most part. They don't, okay? And it's not common. And that's why we should talk about it. Because common sense is about an understanding, okay? It's easily understood. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to have a college degree to understand common sense. It's the basics of life. It's the things that make life easier. And just because the personal experiences and things that you've gone through in your life, you're going to learn little tips on how to do them better. So when you see somebody who's going through something, or doing something a certain way, and you have the ability to give them a tip or an idea of how to do it easier, you should share that, which is what I've done. And that's kind of how this all got created. So I don't really know what I'm doing here, and I have never done this before, and I can't say as I'm going to be any good at it. I mean, as you can see, I don't really talk well, and I use slang a lot, and I really have no clue what I'm doing. So you listen to the promo of the show, and the promo of the show talks about talking about religion and politics and social issues in a way that's never been done before. And a lot of people heard that, and they're like, that's kind of arrogant, or they say, well, that's not really, there's really nothing new there. There's a lot of people who talk about religion and politics and different social issues and stuff like that, and you're just going to be another name on the radio. You got Rush Limbaugh, you got Hannity, O'Reilly, stuff like that, and then Schwartz or whatever his name is, and that's good. The problem is, the thing that I've seen, based on my short time on this planet, is people tend to talk about politics and religion and things like that at an arm's distance. It's at an arm's distance. It's at a ways away. They're talking about politics and religion as if it's a thing. It's this like imaginary, invisible thing sitting out there. And so they can talk about it. And sometimes, conversations get heated and stuff. At the end of the day, they can walk away. And I think that's, I don't think that's the right way to look at it. I don't think it's the way to look at it at all. Because the bottom line is politics, religion, different social issues, they are you. They are the essence of you. They are what make up who you are. They are what dictates what you do, how you behave, how you respond to other people. And so because of that, you hear a lot of people say, well, you shouldn't talk politics and religion because people get upset. Well, of course they do. You're talking about something personal there. It's a personal thing. But it should be talked about. People you say, well, what do you do? What do you do for a living? Or, what's your family? Stuff like that. And they're asking those questions because they want to know who you are. But you don't get into the meat and potatoes of who somebody is by asking them where they live and what job they work and stuff like that. That doesn't make up who they are. I worked in the janitorial business for 15 years. I've been in and out of multiple different buildings. The janitorial business wasn't who I was. It's what I did for a living. That's how I fed my family. I operated. But there was a little bit more to me than scrubbing toilets. And you get these clients and stuff like that. They see you have this idea of what you should be and how you should behave and how you should talk and how you should act based on what you do for a living. And it's lame. It's the most ridiculous concept out there. For somebody to sit there in their job position and think that there's something better or greater about them simply because of what they do, where they go for a living, or how they provide, for their families, it's just a fraction of who they are. You really want to find out who they are, you have to kind of rub them a little bit in the wrong way. You have to spark an emotion, and you're either going to create it through love, where they have this overwhelming feeling of love and joy and they just want to be around you, or you're going to create that spark of emotion, okay, where something burns inside them and they have to respond to you. And they're doing it out of a more of an anger or hatred type of level. You want to get to the heart of who they are to get them to respond. That's how you got to do it. And because I'm not a big fan of hugs and handshakes and being loved, I tend to focus on kind of pissing people off a little bit. And hopefully I can say that on the radio. Give a thumbs up. I'm good. You have to kind of work that angle to where you're going to get them to give you the feedback, to give you the heart and soul of what the subject is, okay, to where you can find out who they are. And the whole point, goal and reason to find out who they are is so hopefully, somehow, some way, you can give that little piece of information that may or may not change the course of how they operate, function, and manage their life. You want to change people, you want to make things better in their life, that's how you got to go about doing it. I've got a lot of friends on Facebook. I got over 5,000 or close to 5,000 friends on Facebook, But when you talk about, people that like you, I don't have too many of those. And that's okay, because I'm not looking to be liked. That's not the main goal for me, is to be liked. Main goal for me is to get people to that point to where they can recognize something in and of themselves that's going to make their life better. That's what I want to do. That's what I enjoy doing. That's why I wrote 2 books, and gave my heart and soul in regards to what I know about these books. So I talk about politics, religion, and social events, not because I'm interested heavily in politics, but because I'm interested in the individual and why they do and why they say and why they vote a certain way. Because this is why, this is why you look at this country and you see that it's, people say, well, it's divided. It's divided for a reason. There's a reason behind it, You have 2 different party lines. You got a Democratic and you got a Republican party line. And people say, well, I don't vote I don't vote along party lines. That's the new cliche nowadays. It's like, well, we don't vote along party lines. I'm a registered independent. I make an educated guess, educated vote based on who the person is and their voting record and their background and blah, blah, blah. And I always find that a little bit fascinating because, the truth of the matter, I almost did that too. I almost switched from I'm actually a registered Republican. I actually almost switched from being a Republican to an independent for that very thought process, very reason. It's like, well, if you say you're a Republican, then people automatically think, well, you only vote a certain way. You're going to write in the Republican ticket. You're going to blindly go out to the voting booth and just mark Republican and walk away, and that's it. That's not really what Republicans do, and I know Democrats don't do that either. But if you say you're with a party line, that's typically what people. That's what people say, or it's what they imply when they're talking to you. So you get a lot of these people that say, well, I'm an independent, And so I make an educated vote based on the facts. I don't just place my vote. And you don't really know which way I'm going to vote. I may vote Republican. I may vote Democratic, blah, blah, blah. But the reality is, okay, if you look at the individual and they're registered independent, number one, you have to ask the question, are you throwing away your vote, man? Seriously. The independent party, I mean, I'm all for a third party. I'd love for it to happen. But the independent vote is kind of a dead vote. It's a throwaway vote. It's not big enough and large enough to make any difference. So all you're going to do is knock off the numbers. And the truth of the matter is, the reality behind every single bit of it is, regardless of who they put up there as a candidate, I don't care if it's Romney, I don't care if it's Obama, okay? You're not going to change the heart and soul of you simply because they have a name. You're going to vote according to the ideology that you believe, the ideology in which you live your life. And there is a distinct difference between the two. And that's the bottom line. So you look at people and they go, "Oh, well, I'm a registered independent," and that's like, well, that's great. But when you call into the show, if you call into the show, which, by the way, you can call into the show. I take callers. 541-284-7953. That's the number to the show. Call in. If you got some input on what I've been talking about, definitely call in. If you have a question for me, call in. But I'd like to hear about what your opinion is in regards to Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and I want to know why you vote the way you do. Now, let me prepare you for something here. I'm not going to sit back when you call in, okay, and we're talking about, whether or not you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent. I'm not going to sit back and we're going to talk about, what Romney said about, Iran or Libya and stuff like that. I mean, that's all fine and dandy, okay? But what I want to know, when I say we're going to talk about politics, religion, stuff like that, we're going to talk about you. I want to know your take, your reason. You say you vote for abortion, okay? You believe you're pro-abortion. The question I'm going to have for you is, have you ever had an abortion? Are you planning on having one? Do you use birth control right now? Those are things you're going to get from me. So you call into the show, 541-284-7953. And you can tell me why you're voting the way you're voting, whether it's a Democrat, Republican, or independent. It's an absolute war between ideologies. People say we want to be partisan. We want to, cross party lines, or reach across the bench, stuff like that. It's not going to happen.
He may try to.
It's just not going to happen. That's not how it works. It is a personal thing, an absolute personal thing. When people vote the way they vote and they say what they say, it's based on their own personal experiences and stuff like that. You've got one party line that believes in personal responsibility, independence, and respect. The Republican Party, they want you to be self-sufficient. They want you to operate and function independently of the government. They don't want you to have to stand in lines and wait for food and get food stamps and stuff like that. That's not what they're looking for. They want you to be successful and to create and build and grow. But they know that the only way you're going to do that is if you reach down deep inside yourself, address the demons and fears that you have on a personal level, and overcome them. That's the only way it works. You can't sit there and tell somebody, hey, this is what you need to do, lay it out for them, and then just force them to do it. It doesn't work that way. I was a janitor for 15 years. A janitor scrubbed toilets, okay? You want to sit here and talk about the economy and how bad it is and how there's no jobs and blah, blah, blah. Why are you waiting for the government to help you? Why are you sitting back looking at gas prices and going, gee, I just can't wait until, gas prices reach a level where I can afford it. I don't care if gas is 50 cents. I am not going to want to pay it. I'm always going to want to pay less. But I'm not going to sit there and get upset at a president or a government because, gas prices are so high, blah, blah, blah. You know what? I don't care if it's $500 a gallon. The main thing I'm concerned about and the main thing that I'm going to worry about is whether or not I've got enough money in my account to pay for the gas. And if I don't, then I'm not going to look for the government to try to help me out. I'm not going to sit there and wait for them to show up. You talk about the Katrina devastation, Hurricane Katrina. You had all these people sitting around waiting for the government to show up to get them water, give them shelter, give them food. Are you kidding me? For real? People actually do that? They're going to sit and wait for somebody to help them? It's mind-numbingly ridiculous. It makes absolutely no sense. And yet they sit there and they do everything they can to put the burden on somebody else. Everything they can to get somebody else to help them out. Nobody's going to help me out, man. Frickin' elbows deep in a toilet, eating a cake in one hand, scrubbing with the other. You think somebody's going to give me the time of day to help me out? Think somebody's going to throw me a bone and say, hey, Jake, why don't you come do this? It's not going to happen. The only way you get out of the hole you're in is if you do stuff on your own. You have absolutely no excuse in this country. None. You have the internet now. You don't have to go and try to figure out how to do the Dewey Decimal System and figure out how to find a book. You can go online and you can log in and you can click and read about anything you want to read and know about. Anything. The internet, believe it or not, is for more than just porn. Isn't that a novel concept? And you can log in and you can spend hours and hours and hours reading about stuff. We got three-wheelers, okay? Me and my kids, we wanted to get some stuff. We got some three-wheelers. And, you know what? They have a cough button here. I'm supposed to be pushing this button when I cough or when I drink it. I don't do that. So I'm just kind of coughing and drinking because pushing the button is kind of a pain. So you're just going to have to listen to me when I drink and stuff like that. And I hope that doesn't sound too bad. But the bottom line is we have these three-wheelers. And one of these three-wheelers we got in, it had carburetor problems. You try to start this thing up, and it just ran like crap. And it's like, okay, well, I can take it in. I can spend a couple $100, whatever. So I take it in. This guy goes through it. He's charged me, I think it was a couple $100, whatever. And he says, you can do this on your own. I said, yeah, I don't know about that because, I've worked on cars and I've done mechanics and I can do it. I mean, when you're poor, you just kind of have to learn how to do that stuff. You have to do it all on your own. But you reach a point in time where it's like, I hate that work. I think it sucks. I don't like busting my knuckles and getting my hands all dirty, so I don't want to do it. So I take it in and I tell this guy, can you fix this for me? And he goes through it and he fixes it. Okay. So I'm thinking I'm set. I'm good. Everything's running great. Okay. A couple days later, I got problems with another one. And it's the same type of deal. Carburetor's trashed. So this guy tells me, he told me, he says, you can tear these apart and rebuild them. And I don't know how to do that. So I get online, I log online, and I watch a 15-minute video on how to rebuild a carburetor. And then I go the next day to the garage, pull the machine out, break the thing apart, clean it, put it all back together, slap it back in the rig. And it starts up, and it runs just fine. 15-minute video. Took me about 10, 15 minutes to actually do it myself. And now I know how to do it. Just like that. Information's right there, tip of your fingers. You sit there and you say, well, I want to make more money. I want a better job. I want to do something. Why are you sitting there waiting for your boss to give you a raise? Seriously. Your boss doesn't pay your rent. Your boss doesn't make a car payment. Your boss doesn't decide what car you're going to drive. You want to drive a different car, but you can go to your boss and say, well, I need a raise because I want to drive a nicer car. Your boss doesn't give a crap what type of car you drive. where you live. It's not his job or responsibility to. You want things different in your life. You want to have different clothes. You want different food. You want to drive a nicer car. You want a TV, flat screen, newest flat screen TV. You got to do that on your own. You know? You got to actually think and operate on your own. If you're going to spend all your time, 9 to 5 working these jobs, okay? You got to find some time on your own to do something different. You got to do it. You got to think a little bit out of the box. See, I think the biggest problem with the economy is we don't have enough people. Okay, it's not about we don't have enough jobs. We don't have enough job creators. We don't have enough people that in and of themselves want to grow and create and do something for themselves. And so they take the time to study and learn and figure out how to do something. I'm not suggesting that, starting a business or operating a business is the same level or concept as rebuilding a carburetor. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm saying this. Once you learn how to build a carburetor, I can actually charge to do that now. I can put myself in a position. I worked at Monaco Coach prior to doing the Gentro business. I was a felt installer. I installed felt. It's where you crawl into bays. You take this glue and you spray it all over the inside of these bays and you lay up felt and you cut it all in. The job sucked. I did that for about 8-9 months, maybe a year. And then one of the guys that was welding, he, on his break, I'd ask him, I say, hey, will you teach me how to weld? I want to learn how to weld. And he's like, sure. So he shows me how to weld. Next thing I know, I'm doing his job for him. So I could do my job before noon. And so in the afternoon, I would end up doing his job for him. And he would kick back, walk the plant, pretend to be busy, blah, blah, blah. When it got to the point where he decided he was going to move, and his job position became available. So I went to the supervisor and I said, hey, I've been doing his job. I know how to do it. Can I do it? The guy's like, sure. So I got promoted. I went from felt to welding. And now I can weld. Now I know how to weld. I can weld all sorts of stuff. I've welded trailers and, different, objects and blah, blah, blah. The point of the matter is, I've actually sold some of the stuff that I've put together. I took little bits and pieces, I put them together, and I sold it. Based on my ability to learn how to weld. I took the time to figure out how to weld. You got to do stuff like that. You got to think outside the box. You want more money. You want a better life. You want to do better things. You have to think differently. You operate differently. You can sit all day long and mark every single box in the voting booth, for Romney, for Obama, for Biden, for whoever, okay? They don't know you from Adam. They're not going to take the time to do jack for you. You got your friends and family. Your friends and family are only going to help you so far. Your friends and family, okay, they're the number one people that are going to shoot down your different ideas and things that you want to do. They've known you from day one. They know all your faults. They are by far. You think it would be the opposite. You think they're the ones that are going to jump on board, pat you on the back, blah, blah, blah. There's going to be some of those, but it's going to be a fraction. The vast majority of the friends and family that are surrounded by you, they're going to have a little bit of, reservation. They're going to have a little bit of negativity that they're going to spread on you. And you got to combat your way through that. You got to figure out your way through that. Because you can't let that stop you. 541-284-7953. I want you to call me. I want to talk about some of this stuff. The bottom line is you have to look at things in a way that's going to create what you want to create. You got another party here, the Democratic Party. They typically are a party that promotes and generates self-indulgence. They like to reward irresponsibility. They want to create a level of dependence. They want you to be on food stamps. And so they're going to sit there, they're going to be sympathetic, and they're going to be empathetic, and they're empathize with you. They're going to say, we want to help you out. We need to help you out. They're going to sit there, they're going to sit there and service the symptom of what you got going on in your life, and they're not going to address the problem. The problem in all this stuff is you. You don't have enough money at the end of the month to pay your bills. that's your fault. Either A, based on how many bills you chose to acquire, or B, what you're doing to provide and pay for the lifestyle you're living. You want a different lifestyle, you want to live differently, then you've got to actively go out and pursue it. And I find it a fascinating thing because people go, well, you can't just, I have limited resources. Well, no, I was going to say a word, but no kidding, Sherlock. Don't smile at me, bro. No kidding, Sherlock. Everybody's got limited resources. I don't care if you're a millionaire. You have a limit on what you're able to do based on what you know, your personal experiences, your financial backing, stuff like that. You want to get a different level of wherever you're at, you have to saturate every single available resource within your power and your control and push it towards something that you want to build. That's how it works. Love to be, pie in the sky where you can just place your order and things be delivered. It doesn't work that way. Typically not. 9 times out of 10, people's best hope of making money is to win the lottery or get an inheritance. And lottery winners all the time, they win hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars. And you hear the stories all the time where they came into all this money and they fell flat on their backside and they lost it all because they don't know what to do with it. They can't manage money on a small scale. What makes you think they can manage it on a large scale? You got to learn about it. So you talk about the ideologies. They're totally different, totally polar opposites here. You got Republicans on the side that are like, we want you to do it by yourself. We want you to do it on your own. We want you to create. We want you to grow. You want a car? You want a house? We want you to go get that. We want you to be successful. We want you to do these things that you want to do, your hopes, your dreams, your goals, your aspirations. We want you to do that. But we're not going to sit there and do it for you. And then you've got this other ideology that says, we want you to do whatever you want to do, and we don't want you to worry about anything because we're going to take care of it all for you. I'm sorry, folks. That's slavery. That's what it is. That's modern day slavery. Long time ago they had these coal mines. People would go to work in these coal mines, and they'd work there all day. Down in the dirt, in a hole. They would crawl down into a hole, and they're going to spend 8 to 10 hours chipping away in this coal mine. And companies would be like, we're going to provide a house for you. We've even got a store you can buy from the store, and you can get credit from the store. We're going to pay for all your food and all your electric and all that stuff. And next thing you know, these guys are spending 8 to 10 hours a day down in this hole, and they can't quit. There's nothing they can do because they owe money, not only for where they live, but the store when they buy their goods. They're able to put it on credit, and then they're bound. They're stuck there. So they work there 30, 40, 50 years of their life. They ain't going anywhere. The last thing you want to do is have somebody else have control over how you make your money. The last thing you want to do is have somebody else have control over where you live, what cars you drive, your health insurance, whatever, the food you eat. You don't want to give that power control to somebody else. You just don't. That's a mistake. Bad things happen. You don't believe me, you think that's crazy. You know what? Put your mom or your brother or your cousin or your best friend as a signer on your bank account. Give your bank account, the control of your bank account, to somebody else, somebody that you trust, somebody that you know, and see how that works out for you. How many of you out there would be willing to do that? You're going to sit there and trust the government to provide those things for you. Would you be willing to, people you don't even know? Okay, people who stand up on a stage or behind a mic, you're going to trust them to, help you out with gas and food. And, you had these people voting for Obama that say, yeah, he's going to pay my mortgage, he's going to pay my gas, blah, blah, blah. You're going to trust somebody like Obama to take care of those things for you. Give it to somebody you trust. Sign your bank account over to somebody that you know. And then tell me if it works. Because my guess is, and this is just a hunch, my guess is you're not going to be willing to do that. You're not going to want to do that. Number one, you're not going to want to go to them every time you want to buy a donut and say, hey, can I have 50 cents? Because I want to buy this donut. And number two, you're never going to know whether or not they're skimming off the top, whether or not they're taking it. Social Security is a big issue nowadays. People going on and on about, the solvency of Social Security, whether or not we're going to have it. Our generation is not going to have it, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, because we had this great idea years ago. We're going to give our retirement. We're going to trust the government to manage and fund and care for our retirement. And so what did they do? They took our money and then they used it. Duh. Of course they did. You got a bank account sitting there racking up a bunch of money and you need some money. That's what's going to happen. Okay, folks, so we're going to go to a short commercial break, and I'll be back.
This hour brought to you by Quaker State. For people who want to get the most miles out of their engine, it's a good thing there's a motor oil like Quaker State Defy. It stops up to 98% of future engine wear based on the industry standard Sequence 4A wear test. Learn more at QuakerState.com.
Community Health Centers of Lane County is your medical home because Community Health Centers provide compassionate, respectful health care for the whole family. The clinics are proud to sponsor National Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Women 40 to 49 should talk with their provider about when to start getting mammograms and how often. Community Health Centers has 4 convenient locations which feature a prenatal clinic, family planning, pediatrics, family practice, and behavioral health. They gladly accept patients with OHP, Medicare, private insurance, or no insurance at all.
Hablamos español y estamos para servirle.
This message is sponsored by Community Health Centers of Lane County and EARS.
That might arise.
Every purchase you make is a vote. So before you buy, think reuse first. In addition to all the quality thrift stores for clothes, furniture, and housewares, don't forget to stop by Bring for home and garden projects, Next Up Recycling for phone and computer needs, and MEC for craft and school supplies. Reuse supports the local economy and saves you money. So cast your vote for a healthy future and shop at Lane County's many nonprofit reuse centers.
This message is brought to you by Lane County Waste Management in association with EARS.
When it comes to managing your diabetes, Bayer's new Contour Next EZ blood glucose meter makes testing easy. You also get exceptional accuracy because it uses the next generation Contour Next test strip for close to lab test results. And all this at the lowest everyday price of all major brands. Find Bayer's new Contour Next EZ meter at your local Bi-Mart and save $10 this week. Upgrade today. Offer good from October 1st through October 31st. Bayer's new Contour Next EZ meter. Ease, accuracy, and savings. Now that's a powerful combination.
You can listen to 1380 Info Radio live on your smartphone, tablet, Mac, or PC with iHeartRadio. Get the app at iHeartRadio.com.
We are 1320 AM Info Radio.
And I'm back. So listen up. Seriously look at this. We have a level of stupidity that is literally sweeping across the United States. And it's the craziest thing on the planet. And you see it on TV. You got these protesters out there. They're mindlessly casting votes based on what they're going to get. Based on what somebody sits there and says that they're going to provide or give you. Since when do you vote like that? I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. People that don't know jack about your life, they don't know jack about, the things that are going on in your life, how you want to live, and yet you're going to sit there and trust them with, whether or not they're going to help you out or not. They buy into the concept of the haves and have-nots. That's something that's been sold. That's what they're trying to promote or push now. It's not just about creating racial divides anymore. It's it's got all to do with, how much you make. They're going to talk about the 1%ers, and the 99 percenters. They have this place in Eugene here, this little patch of dirt. Actually, it wasn't a patch of dirt. It was a beautiful park. You had all these people, go out and they congregated all in this little park. You got these park rules that say you're not supposed to be there after a certain amount of time, But the rules didn't apply to them, and they decided to totally ignore the rules, and they just did it anyway. So they set up tents, And they set up little food booths and blah, blah, blah. They even actually had a library tent. I thought it was the funniest thing on the planet. You drive by and you see all these people, basically, who took this nice plush green park and they turned it into a mud hole, and they're living in these tents in this mud hole. And they're protesting Wall Street and they're protesting rich people, blah, blah, blah. They're saying it's their fault for why they live, where they live. It's their fault. They don't have the good things in the life that they want. And they think it's unfair that other people are living better than they are. And then they stick this tent up with library books in it. Now, the city of Eugene, if you don't know it, has literally a Taj Mahal library. The thing is like 4 stories tall. And it's got every single book you could possibly imagine put into this building. And if you walk into the library in downtown Eugene, it's like you can say something and there's like an echo because there's hardly anybody in there. And yet they got this little tent with a bunch of little books in it, in their protesting camp. Not to mention, okay, we have access to the internet now. We don't need to go to the library to read a book. I got 2 books out. You can access them online, You don't have to buy a hard copy. You can go in there and you click on a link, you download it right to your computer, it puts it in a little file, and you always got it right there. Simple as that. All the information you need, right there. And yet they got this little tent with a handful of books in it. I couldn't help but laugh. It's like, if that's your level of thought process, if that is as far as you're thinking, no wonder you're living in a tent in the middle of a park. If you can't grasp that concept, if you can't figure that out, if you can't go, hey, whoa, you know what? Maybe we don't need a library tent. Maybe we don't. They had a medical tent. They created like this little community right in the middle of the park. We have a hospital here called Riverbend Hospital, and the thing is massive. Massive. My mom works there. I mean, these halls, you walk these halls, you're going to get a workout. And these guys at Riverbend are good. I busted my finger a couple 3 months back. I had this good friend of mine that, had a stupid moment, and he dropped an axle on my finger and busted the tip. I go to Riverbend, and seriously, I wasn't there 5 minutes. I walked in with my finger bleeding, and I was in, and they were working on it, and they stitched it up, and I was good to go. I mean, bam, that fast. And they got this medical tent with this piece of paper cross on it. Level of stupidity, seriously, sweeping across the United States. They're going to sit there. They're going to criticize and condemn people who have worked hard, people who have thought out of the box, done something, outside of the norm to provide for themselves, their family, the people they care about. They're going to criticize, condemn, and judge them and say that they're evil, the ones that create, the ones that build, the ones that grow, the ones that provide jobs that these people supposedly need. And yet they're going to sit there and they're going to have that thought process mentality where they can't connect their own damn dots. Seriously? We're going to promote that? That's what we're going to promote? That's what we're going to pat on the back? That's what we want our kids to do? To buy into that concept? To buy into that mentality? To buy into that ideology? It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. People get all torqued to the religious right. They go, well, especially if they're not believers. If they don't believe, in God, then it's like, okay, well, hey, we don't want Christians. We don't want the people to be telling us what to do. We don't want the Christians to take over America. That'd be a bad thing. Yeah, because then there would be more food boxes. I mean, seriously, these guys run around. They hand out food boxes. These guys run around and hand out blankets. These guys are terrible. Who wants that? Who wants a food box? I mean, God forbid you're actually hungry and you need food, and then some Christian shows up on your door with a food box. That would be like the end of the world. Yeah, because Christians will tell you things like, hey, it may not be a good idea to go out drinking Friday night, because then you may be trashed, and you may not be doing what you need to do at home. You may not be a good father. You may not behave in a way that's, a good mother. What's so wrong about saying that? We don't need to do a study on that. We don't need to organize a focus group to figure out whether or not it's a good idea to go out and hammer it up at the bars. This is a no-brainer. And don't get me wrong, man. I like going out. I do go out. And I like to hang out, sometimes at bars and shoot talks to people about different stuff. Because that is the heart and soul of what people are doing. I mean, you want to see the activity, you're going to go to a bar. I'm a people watcher. I don't go there to drink. I'm not a big fan of drinking. I hate beer. If I'm going to drink, I drink Jack and Coke, and I typically have one glass because I am a lightweight. But I like to see people, and I like to sit in the corner and kind of watch and, see the social dynamics and stuff going on. And you will see a lot of stuff out there. And some stuff's good, and some stuff's, not so good. But if you're going to see the not so good stuff, that's where you're going to go. Because that's where it's going to go down. You provide alcohol to people, and they start behaving like they would normally behave if they weren't walking around in a fog, trying to be politically correct and do things right. And that's all fine and dandy, but I'm not going to encourage my son or daughter to do that. I'm not going to encourage my son or daughter to behave that way when they go out. So why would we listen to the media? Why would we watch movies on Hollywood and stuff like that and promote that type of lifestyle? It makes no sense. Once again, it's a no-brainer. You don't have to sit there and hold a study on whether or not it's the best thing. I remember the study that came out on years ago, back when I was younger. They did a study on whether or not it was necessary to breastfeed your child, and that was awesome. Because they did this massive study on whether or not it was really necessary to breastfeed your child, because we have formulas and stuff like that at the time, and you can mix up a formula and give it to your kid and send them out the door, and they're good to go. And see, that was during a time in the 80s where mothers working inside their home wasn't really socially acceptable. I mean, it was one of those things where women would go around, they'd have kids, and they would kind of business women that had careers, professionals, they'd kind of look down on them, because it's like, you can't do anything more than reproduce. I mean, that was the concept. So it was really a big deal to get mothers to spend as little, don't spend a whole lot of time doing that. You still need to focus on your career. You need to build something, you need to grow something. And so they wanted to make sure that, they could provide, provide an alternative to breastfeeding. So they came out with formula, and they're like, yeah, this is just as good as breast milk and stuff like that. And you don't need to breastfeed your kid. You don't need to take the time to do that. You can just hand them a bottle, mix up the stuff, put it in there, and they're going to drink and be fine. And that'll free up your time. And then you'll be allowed to, do other things and stuff like that. And the other good thing is, then the responsibility of breastfeeding and taking care of your kid isn't just you. Dad can do it too. Because it's his responsibility too. Because dad can't breastfeed. So we're going to give this formula and do that. And at the time, I wasn't, I was a teenager at the time, but I thought, that's kind of crazy. Women are kind of, they're kind of built to do that. It kind of comes second nature based on, their body. They have the ability to do that. Men typically don't. Men don't. So, I mean, why would I can't imagine, going to my wife and going, hey, I'm really disappointed. You get to breastfeed and I don't. For real? Huh. So now the funny thing is, they had this study and they're like, yeah, breastfeeding's not that big of a deal. We've got these formulas, blah, blah, blah. And then, probably years back, I read another study where they did a study on the study, and they come to find out that, what? It's actually best to breastfeed after all, because it's not just the milk that's important for the baby. It's the closeness, and it's the bond that takes place between the mother and the kid, and blah, blah, blah. Frickin' no-brainer. Duh. Why are we trying to reinvent the wheel? I mean, it's one thing. Why are we trying to take women and put them into this box? Why are we trying to take men and put them in the box of being a female, and women put them in a box of being a man? Why are we doing that? There's a reason why there's a male and female. And they have the ability. What they do best. That doesn't mean that, that doesn't mean that there are exceptions to the rule. That doesn't mean that in certain circumstance situations, that a woman is going to have to do things differently or do things in a way that a man would do them. And it's no different than a man doing things in a way that a woman doing. But I'm telling you right now, there are certain things that, it makes more sense to let women behave and act like women and men behave and act like men. I'm not in competition with my mate. They're not in competition with me. We're not competing against each other. And you see that in couples all the time, where one or the other, they're going to sit back and they're going to have, this idea of, what's fair or what's equal. And the reality is, okay, men and women are not equal. They're not. Equal in importance? Absolutely. But there's some things that mom does better. Period, end. Dad will never be able to do. And there are some things that dad does better. Period, end. Things that mom is never going to be able to do. And that's a good thing. It's a really good thing. Because the reality is, kids need both. Kids need both. Why are we encouraging our young women to raise kids on their own? You got these people that say, oh, well, hey, you got pregnant, no big deal. Or you don't even need a man. You can just go get artificially inseminated. You can have a kid. You want to have it, you don't have to wait for dad to come along. And don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that in some circumstances or situations, that's not necessary, or that's not needed, or it shouldn't happen, of course. But that's not what we should be. That's not what we should be promoting. Kids need mom and dad. They need both of them together. They get things from both sexes, both parents, male and female. That is the best way to have and raise a family, if that's what you're going to do. Why do we need a study on that? What's so difficult to comprehend or understand about that? The level of stupidity, seriously, makes the vein in my head practically want to explode. You've got dads, you got dads out there that literally, they knock some girl up, all right? And things don't work out with the girl for whatever reason. And they walk away free and clear because they send in a monthly check of $300-400. They get to hold their head high because, by definition, they're not a deadbeat dad. They made their child support payment. Did you make your child support payment? Oh, absolutely. I'm not a deadbeat dad. What, are you kidding me? Of course, I take care of my kids. I make my payment. Are you freaking kidding me? Frickin's okay, right? Cool. Since when is the money the end-all be-all cure for whether or not you're a father? It doesn't make any sense. You got these women out there, things didn't work out with their dad, and as long as they get their check, they're okay. Excuse me? You're going to be okay. He sends a check, and then if he's not around, that's okay? Don't you think he should be there on the birthday, holidays, Christmases? Don't you think he should spend some quality family time with those kids? Over and above that check? Isn't that what makes a father? Isn't that what makes a mom? The quality time, the teaching, the instruction that you give your kids? Why on earth? Why on earth would we want to promote or encourage women to go through raising a child on their own? Why on earth would we encourage that? It's a no-brainer. It's not fun. It's difficult. I don't care if you've got two parents. Raising kids is a tough thing. It's a hard thing. And it takes years. And it doesn't just end when they turn, when they're able to talk or when they turn teenagers. It's a lifelong commitment. That one thing's for sure. You have a kid with somebody. They're going to be in your life, in your memory, part of your speech, your thought process for the rest of your life. Forever. They're never going to go away. You go out, you have a one-night stand with somebody, you don't knock them up. That's one thing. You may not remember the girl's name. You may not remember the circumstance or situation. You may have been too wasted at the time. But I guarantee you knock her up, you get her pregnant, you ain't ever going to forget her. And she ain't ever going away. So why on earth would we encourage people to go out and engage in promiscuous sex? Knowing that, there's not just a risk of disease. There's not just a risk of contracting something that, could affect you the rest of the life. You may actually end up in a situation where you haven't just affected your own life, you've affected other people's lives too. And we have people out there that, they're going to say, well, we need to give women a choice. Choice is abortion, blah, blah, blah. Seriously, abortion treated as birth control is like, once again, treating the symptom and not the problem. The problem is, why'd you get pregnant? The problem is, how'd you get pregnant? The problem is, why weren't you on birth control? Right now, we have literally hundreds of types of birth control available on the market. And companies out there are dying. They're falling over themselves to come out with more. Ones that work better, more technologically advanced, ones that have less side effects, blah, blah, blah. And they're all over. I want to know, why would abortion even be a debate in this country? Why is it even a question? What a ridiculous thing to have on the ballot. You're going to sit there and advocate on whether or not a woman has a right to have an abortion, but you're not going to sit there and go, hey, gee, honey, maybe, just maybe, you want to take some birth control if you're engaging in sex. Maybe you don't want to go out and hit the bars. Or if you do, don't hook up. Maybe you should change your behavior on how you do stuff. Maybe you should think before you act. We got guys out there, people, this is the other thing, and say, well, the responsibility for that, that shouldn't, that's not just women's, it's the men's responsibility too. Yeah, no kidding, man. I hear you. I'm there. I'm with you. If I agree. The men have just as much responsibility in regards to using birth control as women do. Hands down. Absolutely. And if a guy's out there, running around, he's not using protection or engaging in that, he knocks a woman up like, dude, you knew better. Okay? You're locked into a 19-year stretch making payments. You know what? You should have thought ahead. You should have done your best to prevent that or not engage in it. As simple as that. I don't feel bad for you. You get to give a 30-year check away every single month. Hurrah. But at the end of the day, I'm telling you right now, me being a guy, if I knew for 1 minute, for one instant, that if being with somebody as a woman, okay, was going to jack me up for 9 months, going to mess up my body for 9 months, you wouldn't have to tell me to use birth control. I would be running over your butt just to get into the store. You're going to sit there and tell me, hey, for 9 months you're going to be jacked. You're going to be throwing up. you're going to be vomiting. I'm using birth control. I don't care. Symptom, side effect, whatever. You give me a headache, it's going to cause me, I'll take it. I'm not going to be jacked for 9 months because I didn't take some pill. Okay, bottom line is we got 5 minutes left in the hour. I'm going to end the show with a couple of people I'd like to thank. John Milkay from KKNX. John actually hooked me up for this gig. He put me in contact with a woman by the name of Lisa King, okay? She is with Ladies of Lane County. It's a show that airs on Fridays from 4 to 5 p.m. on this channel, 1320. Listen in if you can. Lisa, this is an amazing, amazing woman. She literally has so many connections, so much input. Absolutely amazing. Rick Dancer, I have spent numerous hours, countless hours, talking with this man. This man, okay, gave me, I don't know how to describe it. But the bottom line is he told me not to bark like a dog when I talk to people, and that's actually good. Irv Kincaid. Irv Kincaid, this guy for the last 15 years when I was in the cleaning business, covered me financially. This guy was my financial backer, and I absolutely appreciate that. Chambers Construction was one of my best clients when I worked in the cleaning industry. And I've worked with a lot of people. Chambers Construction, by far, best company I've ever worked for. And Jeremy at Cumulus, excuse me. Jeremy got me hooked up, got me set up, and got me good to go. This show currently has no sponsors. I need sponsors. This show's not going to be on air very long if, in fact, I don't have sponsors. So if you would like to sponsor me, I need you to contact me, Jacob, at buycommonsense.com, BuyCommonSense.com. Also, you can visit my website, www.buycommonsense.com. And if you'd like to be on the show, give me a call, send me an email, let me know. I'd definitely like to hear from you. I want to talk about all sorts of different topics, get into all sorts of social issues. And on my Facebook, go to my website, check out my Facebook page. You can get engaged in some of the conversations on there. We absolutely hit a gamut of things. And I'm looking forward to finding out what people think about the show, because literally this has felt like I was pulling teeth the entire time. And next week, I'm going to have a guest on the show. Mark my words. I'm going to have somebody else to talk to than a mic. Swear to God. Outside of that, thanks for listening, folks. And how much time I got left? I got 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Are you kidding me? Okay, so yeah, buy the book, buycommonsense.com. Blah, blah. Oh, you know what? I did forget to thank somebody. Corey at Inverted Designs. Okay, Corey Don at Inverted Designs. This guy's my web designer. He's the guy that put everything together. He's the one who actually has the live feed that I posted on my wall. This guy's amazing. He can literally do anything with a computer. It's the craziest thing on the planet. You go into his place, he's got like 3 different monitors set up. He can bounce around to all 3. The guy's a total complete genius. Corey. InvertedDesigns.com. Man, am I good or what? I got 1 minute? A minute and a half? Oh, man. This is crazy. Anybody hear about the debates last night? Or see the debates last night? Obama did good. He did much better. Obama did much, much better. Romney held his own, though. He totally held his own. And that's a good thing. Man, can't we just kill it? Sure. Let's just kill it. Thanks, folks.
With SRN News, I'm Rich Thomason in Washington. Fresh off last night's spirited debate with President Obama, Republican Mitt Romney is campaigning today in Chesapeake, Virginia.
I love these debates. You know, these things are great. And I think it's interesting that the president still doesn't have an agenda for a second term.
Romney quipped he had better come up with